Okay, so welcome to At the Table. So what I've got there then is my Wolverine deck of cards. You can see nice and glossy, all been sleeved. So that's what we've got. So even though Wolverine has a starting hand special card, it is still only 12 cards in the whole deck, and like I say, that does make it quite slim in terms of the size. So I mean, before I even start, I mean, I've cut off one edge here, but before I start proceeding any further, you can see just through that, in fact, yeah, I mean, I might even want to add a further millimetre on there, possibly. So you get a very quick view, but the idea of this then is, when this is, like I say, this is just paper, just straight paper, just printed it out. I'll cut it out here. So as you can see, I've started now, so I've just taken that edge off, so you'll hopefully recognise this is what we were looking at earlier in Photoshop when we were back at the computer. So I've literally just cut that edge off there, and this is it. So I've got a ridiculously gargantuan A3 metal ruler. Since moving office, I don't know where my other rulers are, and he says, and then looks across, and literally, albeit wedged into my calyx, finds a smaller ruler. So let's use a smaller ruler, because that's very convenient. You make yourself a liar. Okay, so it feels like we've already scored and cut. Let's have a look. So that isn't scored, that is scored, that is scored. And in fact, I've already cut that as well. Okay, so what I would do then, I got interrupted. I was doing this earlier and I got interrupted, so apologies, folks. So what I would normally do is I would go down and I would just take in the either very lightly with the cutting side of the scalpel, or possibly even just using the blunt side of the scalpel and just going down with the tip just to add a score to aid the folding. I would go down lightly over this, and then I would go heavier on the bits that I know that I want to cut. So from this edge here, I know I want to cut. This whole area here is not required, so all of that will just get cut out. Likewise this over here. So in fact, let's show you now as I go through and do the horizontal lines. So, and again, because this is all paper, I'm not worrying about being massively precise on all the cuts, particularly all the sort of the finer angles. When I'm doing the final on card, that's where I will pay that bit more attention, undertake that bit more due diligence in just ensuring that all the trimming is in place appropriately. Just find it makes using the tuck boxes easier, and in particular what I find is it makes them wear a lot less. So yeah, having a plan design that genuinely supports and assists that's definitely something to look for. So you can see here, so this is all waste, that will all just go. And then what I'll tend to do is I'll just rotate it, because I'm right-handed. I'll operate primarily from the right hand, and it just gives me a keen, easy solution to how to see what it is I'm cutting, what needs to stay, make sure I don't accidentally cut off something that I later rely on in the court of law. Later realise I should have kept. Sorry, couldn't help myself. So this is a score down here, and then it's a cut from there to there, because I want those tabs to be retained. The piece I always forget and miss is then this piece here. So that should give us nearly, didn't quite cut through enough on here, so we'll finish that off. And I think similarly over here. Okay, so that is what you're left with. So that is the main plan. At that point, what I'll literally do is just go through and apply. Yeah, you can see, I mean, that should have been a score, and yeah, I went way too heavy on that. And I knew I did it, to be honest, folks. When I made that cut, I was like, oh, that was too hard. But hey, you know, these things happen, and it's okay, because it's just a paper test version, so it matters not a jot. The main thing I'm interested in here is the assurance on the thickness of the spleen and top and bottom on the folds perspective. So just gonna finish those folds. Okay, so that's all pre-folded, ready to tape. Okay, so what I would then do is I flatten this out. Once I've got all those all the scores folded, ready to go, I flatten it out again. And as I was saying on the Photoshop, what I would do is I'd apply tape here and here, across the bottom here and here. And then there's a particular order that I found preferable and helps to simplify the process when it comes to then building it, sticking it all together. So yeah, I mean, you can see this is getting very tight on the tape even that I'm using, and this is 5mm double-sided stick tape. And yeah, at this stage it's genuinely struggling to maintain, given the thickness, or thinness rather, of the spleen. There we go. And you know what, I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking, is spleen the right word? Should it be spine? Is it the spine of a book? Anyway, I'm calling it spleen. Probably the wrong word, and people are like listening to me and what the heck's this guy flipping keep going about spleens for? Anyway. So you can see then I've applied the tape to the two tabs across the bottom and the main base of the box, and then the main fold that will just hold it all together nicely for us. So the main fold will be the last thing I'll actually stick down. Just gonna get off. Then, as I say, these will be the what I'll start with. So the spleen tabs will always be what I start with, and then build the rest of the box from there. Not do that fold, that was silly of me. Yeah, try and do the fold, otherwise you get that, it sticks. There you go, learn from my mistakes, folks. But you don't have to. There we go, so we'll fold that over. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure, as any of you can appreciate, much quicker, simpler, and a heck of a lot less mess than using glue. So when I look inside of there, you can see this is the tab that has the tape on, and that's what you want to be making sure you get a really good contact. And you can see there like I say, you can see if I get it under the camera, Yeah, so that tab's just sticking up a little bit as well. So just got to make sure those tabs are really firmly pushed against what you're wanting them to adhere to. So yeah, I'm in a ruler, or like I say, with the bigger ones I was using that, but you can see that is just not going to cut it now. We're so thin on this edge, it's just crazy. Did I not fold that one either? My gosh, I'm sorry folks, I've made myself a dog's dinner, a pig's ear, a royal faff, and hard time to do something that should have been simpler. So apologies, but we're nearly there. Okay, so that should be about, and I can use that to just get in there and push that down. Here we go. Okay, so there folks is our box. So yeah, I mean, you can see, I don't know if you can see, I mean, you can just about make out the name on the side. I'm not sure the camera's serving it justice. I mean, it's visible, certainly visible. It doesn't help if I'm just not even in the camera's line. And likewise, the yeah, the title on the top. If you're stacking them vertically rather than horizontally. But yeah, I mean, they stand out enough. Like I said, I don't think the camera's doing it justice, so apologies for that. But yeah, and then I would take my cards, having created this paper template, and just get a sense of how easy do they slide in. And I mean, they went in well. They did go in well. I mean, you can see then, so you've got a small amount of play, and you want a small amount of play, as I mentioned earlier. You don't want them to be so tight in there that you're literally tearing the box apart every time you're putting them in, putting them out. You know, you want to have a good level of play. But yeah, this is where, I mean, again, this is paper, and this is where, see, doing those extra cuts, just making sure you get that curvature, cutting these down, all those things all help to create a much smoother product from a box. Really do make a difference. But actually, I think that's not a bad size. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to proceed, and I'm going to print this out onto card and see how this then fares when I'm not over scoring stuff and destroying my own damn handiwork. And hopefully, yeah, I'll have a better version of the product, and yeah, give it a go. But yeah, for those that were asking, hopefully that helps give you an idea of the process that I go through from initial creation within Photoshop, that initial design, going through the base template, adding in the graphics, putting those on the various sources, and then actually getting it printed, get it to the table, do it in simple paper form first of all, as a mock-up, get an idea, does that work, does that not work, what needs changes, does it need to be thicker, does it need to be thinner, etc. As you saw, the design works really well. Absolutely happy to share the files when I've got them done. I'm sat here now, and I'm looking across my office, and I'm literally looking at like 8 piles, big pile. I mean, I've even got some literally to hand here. You know, these are all the these aren't even all, excuse that phrase. I mean, these are just some of, you know, the X-Men character boxes that need creating. You know, going through, like I say, I think there's 118 miniatures in the X-Men Marvel United Season 2, and a number of those miniatures have both they're what they call anti-heroes, so they have a villain mode, So you've got a deck of cards to play as villain, and then they'll also have your heroic mode. So you'll also be able to play them as heroes as well. So yeah, I can only imagine there's probably, I mean, again, I'm guessing off the top of my head now, I'm guessing there was maybe 30 or so. So one such is the Apocalypse. So Apocalypse has a deck of cards to play as a hero, and then also, oh, there you go. So he has a deck of cards as a villain, and a deck of cards as a hero. So there's your starting hand. So there's, if you wanted to play Apocalypse as a hero, there's his deck, and then if you wanted to play Apocalypse as a villain, there's his deck. So you can see the main graphics exactly the same, but it means I'll be creating a hero box and a villain box, and I'll only have the one miniature. There were a number of instances where CMON created variations. So Deadpool is a good example. If you buy the Deadpool box, there is a retail version. There is also a Kickstarter exclusive version which includes Lady Deadpool, I believe it is. But with the Deadpool box, they actually created different miniatures as to whether you were playing the villain or the hero. In my mind, certainly, at least, thankfully, with the X-Men, they recognise actually we don't need to do that a lot of time. We can just have the one miniature. It's exactly the same paint job. The artwork is exactly the same. It was actually the storylines that created a variation as to is that character now a good guy, a bad guy, anti-hero, what have you. So yeah, they captured that well, and they've got that functionality within the X-Men. They introduced that within the X-Men Marvel United universe. So really excited to dig into that. Haven't started playing through any of that stuff. Hopefully you're joining me playing through the original Marvel United Season 1 content. My intention is to get that campaign finished, and then I'll start venturing on to looking at all the wonderful goodness that comes in Season 2 with the X-Men United, and hopefully by the time I've done that, Season 3 will arrive, and I'll be going through this whole process again, creating lots of new top boxes and working out a brand new storage solution. And yeah, well, I'll no doubt see you back here at the table then. And yeah, anyway, thank you very much as always for your time. It's been a joy to share this with the community. It's been a joy to get a genuine sense of buzz as I've shared these out there. People wanted to know what, how have I created these, what is that process. I'm going to create a video taking people through it. So yeah, hopefully you found that useful. Hopefully you've enjoyed my babbling, and yeah, hopefully see you here for some more videos in the future. Thanks for watching.